Hey everyone, I hope everyone's having a good time. If not, you'll feel way better considering that today's video is how Deadpool killed all the Marvel universe. Just be warned, blood and gore all over the place as a comic book level of course. So let's get to it. So this story begins with an asylum. The pages are showing us Wade subdued on a hospital stretcher by all the X-Men team with a purpose to make him better. By the time they entered by the door of Asylum, Wolverine has a hunch. Even though how high profile the doctors here are, this doesn't make him feel right about turning Wade over these quacks. It's his words, not mine. But Charles made his mind about this decision already, and tells the chief doctor who'll operate that Wade is a unique case. And all these times, Deadpool is trying his best efforts to change their mind with his jokes, and excuses that he can't accept the operation. By the way, we all know that Deadpool being an insane and all, the writers had a clever way to inform us with two different voices in his head conflicting with each other, which made us into the pages more. One of them being Yellow Bubble feeding off the jokes from all the incidents, and the other one's more of a serious version of Wade. After all the brawl and the mess Wade made, Dr. Brighton in his room, "Please have a seat, Mr. Wilson." And Deadpool starts making joke with a line, "I think he wants to be besties," turning to the audience. And psychological sessions start with these lines. Dr. Brighton starts to feel more awkward and awkward every second of the session. "All these non-stop jabberings you have makes you an inefficient killer, Mr. Wade," says Dr. Brighton, and following with the line that "I cannot fix you, but Psycho Man will." After these lines, we understand that he's not an ordinary doctor, but a villain named Psycho Man, who's a tiny little bastard with a lot of hatred in his mind. And suddenly after these lines, Doctor shows his true self with violence. "I can say if you behave nice, it would be less painful, but it would be a lie, Wade. Because you need this pain," says Dr. Brighton. Wade being in pain all over the ground and struggling, all the voices in his head tells him to resist, even the Joker one. Deadpool starts yelling, "Get out of my head," all of a sudden, and the doctor realizes that it works. "There, all done now. The voices are all gone," says the doctor. But after just a little breath of a silence in Wade's mind, there comes a red bubble saying "Hello, Wade," with all the seriousness and a dark tone. With the continuing pages, Deadpool breaks out of his shrink jacket and attacks the terrified doctor who knows exactly what is about to happen next. Deadpool suffocates him with the jacket's sleeves before he can even talk and realizes that the doctor is actually a droid. With the back of the doctor's head opening, he realizes that. And then there is that tiny Psycho Man saying "Obey your master." Deadpool grabs the tiny guy and tells him, "There's documents here, doctor, which need your stamp of approval." And then starts hitting him on the desk full of documents several times, splattering blood of approval stamp all over them. This is the first kill of his Marvel Universe killing spree. And then the serious voice starts talking to Deadpool again. "Good. Good." And Deadpool says, "Who?" with curiosity in his mind. "You know who I am. You're waiting for me. You killed one of them, now finish it all," voice says. In the following pages, Deadpool burns all the incident to ashes while the other patients begging and offering him money to stop. But he doesn't even care. With the Hollywood kind of explosion scene going on, with Deadpool leaving without a gaze to the explosion behind him, Deadpool asks the voice, "I don't mean to be rude, but what happened to the other voices?" Deep serious voice answers, "Don't worry about them. You don't even need them anymore." After leaving the incident on the Institute behind, Deadpool infiltrates the Fantastic Four building. At the page, we see Susan Storm holding Reed Richards' unrecognizably stretched face, and his body all over the place due to an incident happened earlier. As he finishes his last words to his beloved Sue, he dies melting, leaving Sue with a tear in her eyes. And after this, along with a blast happening in the building, we see Johnny Storm, who's unconscious and collapsed under the rubbles. And then Wade murders Johnny Storm in front of his sister, Sue, by decapitating his head from the body. Actually, in this frame, Sue Storm's invisible, watching her brother being decapitated and hidden until her brother's blood splattered all over her, and that reveals her there. And then Deadpool makes a joke about it by telling her, "Peekaboo, red suits you." Sue, who's pretty pissed after all, blasts Deadpool's head off at the next frame and tells him that he won't be able to do this to anyone ever again. and being rooted to the spot after all the shocking events leading to lose everyone she loves. She lowers her guard down and collapses there. And as we all know, Deadpool, even being decapitated, is so far away from being able to die. He comes back with his healing factor kicks in and stabs her through the heart. Watcher watching these incidents happening from his own dimension and talking about these events, he suddenly gets hit by an electric blast. It turns out that was the reason why Deadpool was at Reed's lab at the first place, so he can attack Uatu, aka Watcher, like this now. And Deadpool warps into place, putting her sword to Uatu's neck. There's something wrong with me. I can see what other people can't, Wade says. And then Red Voice says, ask him, Deadpool. Deadpool executes the Watcher by decapitating him as well there. Following the lines, I have no idea whoever you were talking to, but they're gonna wanna watch this work burn. The second after leaving the building, he needs to face Spider-Man. While fighting and swinging one building to another, Deadpool drops down to a police car hitting from several meters height. Then Spider-Man braces his collars, lifting him from the ground and says, your cutting up routine wouldn't fit me, I guess, huh? Deadpool pulls his gun to his head from below and says, you're right, I won't cut you up. Wade pulls the trigger and blasts Spider-Man's head, with all the crowd around the area being shocked due to Spider-Man's death. Wade starts talking to Red Voice and says that was fun, amazing even. So who's next? Red answers him that the next isn't important. Everyone will die at the end. After these incidents turned out to be a bigger and bitter every day that follows, we see the Avengers being assembled and working to take down Deadpool at the next frame. We are getting informed that Deadpool has already killed Black Panther, Tigra, and Iron Fist, and much more possibly by them talking to each other about the incidents. Jarvis barges in the meeting room with Hayes, telling them that Dr. Pym is missing, along with the lines telling he was concerned that his supply of Pym particles was depleted, as if someone stole them. After all these conversations happening, a huge explosion happens in their room. To see how big of an explosion this was, we can only see the rubbles of the whole Avengers building and adamantium bones of Wolverine underneath them. Even Wolverine was only bones left. Deadpool shows up with It's Raining Men music on the background with the different lines fit for himself, while he's mocking with the Avengers remainings. Luke Cage lifts the rubbles off of him while telling him, you need more than a couple of bombs to take down someone with unbreakable skin. Deadpool answered with the following lines, I figured your tough guy types might be problematic. That's why I shrunk down a couple of extra bombs for special purposes. You guys drink a lot of coffee, you know that, right? Referring the extra bombs inside and waiting to explode in a second or two. And as you can tell, next frame, it was boom. And after Luke died, Thor comes in, swinging his hammer with a thunderstorm in the air. It happens so quick and easy for him to take down Thor, by making the Mjolnir huge with Pym particles, and kills him smashed under his own hammer. Deadpool mocks Thor by booping his nose, squeezing with his hand after his death. After all the deaths, Red Voice says, you satisfied? Deadpool answers, should I be? Red Voice deeply says, never. While all the chit chat happening, Hulk comes in and rips Wade in parts and throws them all over the place and says, you hurt Hulk's friends, you kill Hulk's enemies, only Hulk gets to kill Hulk's enemies. And he leaves to sleep in a cave with a deeply agonized voice line. Hulk doesn't want to be bothered by an annoying stabbing man. Hulk just wants to be left alone. While sleeping, Hulk turns into human form, and Wade follows him inside the cave after he heals and rips Banner's head apart from his body. After a while, Aunt May, after Peter's death, and all the families remaining left after their losses, gather all their money to find a hired killer. And this guy is none other than Taskmaster, which is really a good potential of a successor for this job with all the replicating skills of his enemies' abilities. While Taskmaster is trying to find Deadpool, we see Charles Xavier captured and tied to a chair by Deadpool. After some chit-chatting with Charles, Deadpool starts torturing in order to force him into calling his team where they are. Deadpool rigged all the place with traps killing all the X-Men members coming, so they watch everything from their room with cameras. You might think why Charles isn't just getting into his head and triggering him getting into a coma or something, because all the telepathic powered heroes know that they shouldn't mess with this much insanity happening one's head. And Deadpool even found a way that no one can get in his head because of all the gibberish talks in his head. But Red Voice says just let him in, this one time to wait. After seeing all the deaths of mutants in his team, Charles says enough, I won't let you kill anyone else ever again. After trying to get a glimpse of what is inside Wade's head, Charles dies with blood coming out of his nose. After Charles dies, Wade sees Wolverine coming from the cameras and says, "What's this? I thought I killed him already," with a shocked feeling. When Wolverine enters the facility, Deadpool first shows the X-23 and Daken being tortured and killed all over again every time they heal. One of them is his son and the other one is his clone, which is also kind of a daughter to him. Wade wielding Carbonadium sword, fights Wolverine and kills him, dampening the healing factors of him. And decapitates him as well, just to make sure he won't be able to come back anymore. By the meantime, Taskmaster visits Doctor Strange in order to find Deadpool. But the only thing he finds is a massacre with bodies all over the place, including the body of the Sorcerer Supreme himself. Although nothing left around but mess, Taskmaster finds clues about Deadpool's plan about coming there in the first place, which is finding a way to visit other dimensions and realities. As a breaking news shown in the TV all over the place, we see all the powerful villains and the agents committing suicide by dropping down from a skyscraper. Punisher, who's watching the events happening over a scope of his sniper, sees Deadpool at the window and shots him in the head without even thinking a second. And before he heals fully and recovers from that shot, he runs inside the building and stands there finding the body. But after waiting a while and seeing that he's not healing at all, he finds out with all the puppets and clues around him that this is not Deadpool, but Puppet Master. And after finding out this shocking event, Punisher starts to break out in a cold sweat. And we see a gun pointed at his head, and Deadpool mocking with Frank, holding his puppet, and bang. He kills Punisher there, and keeps mocking him over his dead body. "I know it's your job to kill all the Marvel Universe, but I have bigger plans," Deadpool says. Which is a fourth wall breaking moment, referring to the comic book where Punisher kills all the Marvel Universe. After finding out the clues about Deadpool's plan in the library, Taskmaster finds where Deadpool is and says, "I'm tired of running and seeking around for you. I'll bury you so deep in the muck that no one will ever find you. Maybe in time people will forget you and what you've done," coming close to Deadpool. But the answer comes from Red Voice instead of Fate himself. "We don't want to be forgotten. We want to have never existed in the first place." And somehow Taskmaster hears the Red Voice and says, "What did you say?" This time Wade answers that he didn't even say anything. And the fighting sequence begins. Every second Taskmaster copying Wade's movements, he suddenly fears himself turning into being insane. With the fear finding Taskmaster, Man-Thing comes in and kills Taskmaster. Man-Thing and Deadpool being alone, Deadpool tries to tell Man-Thing his motives about the situation. After listening to Deadpool, Man-Thing tributes himself and opens a gate for Deadpool to leave this universe. Red Voice tells Wade, "Do not mess this chance up, man sacrificed himself for our cause." After passing from the gate, Deadpool sees all the things that happened around him in other universes. And after the long fall from the gate, such as a sequence with a Dream On music on the background in Kratos games, he falls into another gate opening and a room after. He gets out of the room and sees a light gazing from a door gap. Once he approaches to see what's inside, he sees the writers of this comic book. Suddenly, Deadpool turns back to the audience, to us, saying, "Hush. Hey, I see you there, watching. Don't worry, I'll be done with these jokers and this universe before you know it, and I'll find you soon enough." And this is the end of the story and the comic book. If there's anything you'd like to chat about the storyline and the comic book itself, I'll be at the comment section below. Thanks for listening, hope you enjoyed, see you in the next video.